Hey, how's it going? So we're looking at Act 2, Scene 2 today, which is the balcony scene. Probably the most famous scene in all of Romeo and Juliet. So we start immediately after Scene 1 here. So Romeo says he jests at scars that never felt a wound. So for this one, he's just reminding the audience that he didn't like what he heard from Mercutio and Benvolio in the previous scene. They were mocking, they were kind of insulting and not taking him seriously in his love. And he references that here. He jests at scars that never felt a wound. So Benvolio is making jokes, and Mercutio are making jokes about things that they've never felt. They know being in love, so they don't mind making jokes about it. They don't understand what it's like. So Juliet then enters above, and he has climbed into the Capulets' kind of garden, the orchard, and he's kind of standing below, and she can't see him. Obviously, we can see both of them. She comes out, and he then starts comparing her to nature. And we see a lot of that throughout the split. We see a pattern of that linguistically. He says, the light through yonder window breaks. So the curtains, some light has come through and he notices that someone's walked out. Juliet is the sun. Quite a big statement there. Now, we spoke about before in terms of context that obviously, in this time, Elizabethan times, God created everything, and he created the sun, he created nature, and nature was perfect because of that. So yeah, he compares her to the sun. She is energy, she is radiance, she is warmth, all this kind of positive imagery that we see from the sun, that she's powerful as well. So we kind of, throughout this little bit here, we get kind of a lot of natural imagery, and he's comparing us to lots of different things within nature, and saying how much better she is than all of them, basically. Later on, we see Romeo kind of doubting himself as well. He says, "I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks." Who am I to think that lowly little Romeo could even conceive of being with someone like Juliet? She is so incredible. I'm being too bold. I shouldn't even consider this. Now, we've talked about his impulsivity here quite a bit, and we're seeing a bit of doubt from him at this point. He goes back to the impulsivity quite quickly, but we do see glimmers of doubt. Again, the brightness of her cheek would shame those stars, so he's again comparing her to the natural world and God's creation and how much better she is than all of them. At this point, look, her eye in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright, the birds would sing and think it were not night. So her looking up at heaven, they would look down and see these beautiful bright eyes, and they would think it's so bright that even the birds would start singing because they think it would be morning. Yeah, really hyperbolic, really strong kind of emotive language, really describing his love for her. And again, bear in mind they've met not long ago, minutes ago, not hours, and he's already kind of fully in love with her, which I think kind of confirms our impulsive theory that we had. She then speaks, and you're about to see quite an event, really. And this scene sometimes could possibly look a little bit like this.
A.B. She speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel, for thou art as glorious this night, being over my head, as is a winged messenger of heaven. Unto the white upturned wondering eyes of mortals that fall back to gaze on him, when he bestrides the lazy passing clouds, and sails into the bosom of the air.
O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father, and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet.
Shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this?
'Tis but the name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, thou not a Montague. What's Montague? It is not hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose. By any other word would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear affection which he owes, without that title. Romeo doff thy name, and for that name which is no part of thee, take all myself.
I take thee at thy word, but call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth I never will be Romeo.
What man art thou, that thus bescreened at night, so stumblest on my counsel?
By a name, I know not how to tell thee who I am. My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to thee. Had I it written, I would tear the word.
My ears have yonder drunk 100 words of thy tongue's uttering, yet I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo and a Montague?
Neither, fair maid, if either thee dislike.
How canst thou hither tell me, and wherefore? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here.
With love's light wings did I overperch these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out. And what love can do, that dares love attempt. Therefore thy kinsmen are no stop to me.
If they do see thee, they will murder thee.
Alack, there lies more peril in thine eyes than 20 of thy swords. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity.
Never again will you experience anything like that. I was there and it was just... So she speaks, and he obviously is very happy about that, and again puts even more natural imagery there. You'll want to make notes on those. I'm not going to go through every single one because there's loads to talk about, but you should be making notes on a lot of them that you think really stand out. And then we get to probably the most famous line from Romeo and Juliet. "O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Or, if thou wilt not, but be sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet." Now this one's often kind of mistranslated. Wherefore actually means why. So she's saying, why are you Romeo? Why do you have to be a Montague? Why do you have to be called Romeo Montague? Why can't you be someone not from that family? Why can't you be an outsider from somewhere else? Why are you Romeo? Okay? So she's questioning that. She then takes on an interesting kind of role here in terms of context. She says, "Deny thy father and refuse thy name." Now you'll know from your context research that all these kind of honourable ideas were huge during the Elizabethan era. And the fact that she's telling a man as well to deny his father and refuse his own name is a big statement. She's quite a bold lady. She's 13, quite a bold young woman. Or if that will not, but be sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. So she says, either refuse your name so we can be together, or I will do the same. So some quite strong language there from her. You know, it's imperative language. Deny thy father, refuse thy name. There's imperative verbs. Cool. Now, Romeo's not sure. Shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this? I think at this point you could argue that he quite likes the fact that she's thinking about him. He's kind of wondering, should I step in, or shall I almost let her talk about me a bit more? That's often how I've seen this scene. And you know, you may read kind of anxiety into it. You may read he's nervous, all of which are completely valid points. I've just always seen it as him kind of quite liking the attention that, oh, this one actually likes me back, unlike Rosaline. You know, his eyes kind of get bigger. So Juliet kind of sums it up for us here. "'Tis but thy name that is my enemy." So it's your name that I'm not meant to like. It's not you, perhaps. It's your name. It's the fact that you are Romeo Montague, not the fact that you are who you are. It's not your character that we're meant to hate. It's your name. "Thou art thyself, though not a Montague." Now, here's a really good quote. I like this one. "What's Montague? It is nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face." So she's saying, doesn't matter what, you know, if you rip off someone's arm, you can say, this is the ON of Horton in the arm. That's not the way it works. You know, it has to be it's the person. It's not kind of a physical attribute. Then, what's in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other word, would smell as sweet. Think about it like this. If a rose was called a turd, you'd go, oh, this turd smells amazing. Oh, I love turd-flavoured wine. Wow, this is an amazing turd. You know, it doesn't matter the fact it's called a turd. It's still this nice kind of rose. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Otherwise, I've just made some weird comments. But she's saying it doesn't matter what something's called; it's about what they are. Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Perfection. Okay, we're seeing her being hyperbolic as well, and her being very, very upfront and dreamy with the way she's viewing Romeo. That dear perfection. So she's also seeing him in that way. So we're seeing kind of there's no dichotomy here. There's no real juxtaposition really in how impulsive both of them are. We're maybe seeing that both of them are going to be to blame for this, that star-crossed lovers take their life. Now Romeo then speaks up and he says, you know what, that's it, I'll take your word. Say you love me and I will never be Romeo again. Very, very impulsive thing. I will throw away my entire family, all my honour, just because I met you half an hour ago and it's all good. He even kind of repeats it down here where he says, my name, dear saint, is hateful to myself. It is an enemy to thee. Had I written, I would tear the word. So again, really kind of being poetic and romantic. If my name was just something that was written down, I would tear it in front of your face for you. Identity doesn't mean a lot to Romeo. He says, she says, are you Romeo and a Montague? Because she's hearing this voice and she's not sure who's speaking yet. And she says, oh, I know that voice a little bit. Are you not Romeo and a Montague? And he says, neither, if you dislike them, basically. If you dislike either being Romeo or a Montague, I will change it right now. I will never be known by those names again. Now, at this point, we see Juliet is aware of some of the kind of dangers of this, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here. Okay, if anyone walks around this garden, if anyone but me sees you here, you're going to be a dead man. And also bear in mind what the prince said in Act 1, Scene 1, that they've already disturbed the quiet of the streets thrice. They've already done it 3 times, so maybe the 4th time will be kind of the final straw for him. And we're seeing Juliet again, very passionate. If they do see thee, they will murder thee. Yeah, she doesn't want him dead. The kind of feelings are mutual. We could maybe argue one is more into one than the other, but it seems mutual through the language at this point. Now, at this point, we see a kind of different side to Juliet, a more vulnerable, a more needy, a more wanting Juliet. And she says, do you love me? She asks it straight up, dost thou love me? Direct question there. This whole point here, look, she's kind of having this battle in her mind of kind of backwards and forwards of how to react to this. She's kind of just saying, do you love me? Please tell me if you love me. Oh, that would be amazing. Tell me honestly, do you love me? Or actually, do you think I'm coming on a bit too strong? Oh no, if I am, please tell me. And then you can flirt with me maybe. Yeah, that would be nice. And then, but do you love me? It's like very kind of that. It's very all over the place, kind of darting backwards and forwards with that. If thou thinkest I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay. If you think I'm being too easily won, if you think it's too easy for me to kind of give you my love, then I'll even frown, I'll even pretend that I don't want it, and give it away. Yeah, it's that kind of playing hard to get thing. She doesn't want to play hard to get, she wants straight to the answer. But if he wants to play hard to get, she'll act and pretend that she's doing that, just so that she can kind of have that time with him, that kind of connection and that love with him. Okay? An interesting kind of action there. An interesting bit of character development there from Juliet. I think she's given a lot away about herself there. Maybe about a feeling of not being good enough. We're now going to see another, frankly, beautiful, romantic, and just highly realistic extract from this scene. And it looks a little bit Lloyd-ish.
Lady, by yonder blessed moon I vow, that tips with silver all these fruit tree tops.
I'll swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon, that monthly changes in her circle, lest that thy love prove likewise variable.
What should I swear by?
Do not swear at all, or if thou wilt, swear by thy gracious self, which is the god of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee.
If my heart's dear love.
Well, do not swear, although I join thee. I have no joy of this contract tonight. It is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden. Too like the lightning, which doth cease to be, ere one can say it lightens. Sweet good night. This bud of love by summer's ripening breath may prove a beauteous flower when we next meet. Good night, good night. As sweet response and rest come to thy heart as that within my breast.
Oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied?
What satisfaction canst thou have tonight?
The exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine.
Quite a forceful Juliet again, where Romeo says, "Lady, by yonder blessed moon I vow. So I swear on the moon, this romantic thing, the moon, I'm going to swear by that I will love you." And she says, "Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon, that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable." So she's kind of heard the word moon and instead of going, "Oh, that's really romantic, yeah, moonlight, romance, oh, that's nice," she's gone, "Hang on, the moon, that goes away every day. Oh God, what if he goes away every day? I don't want that to happen. Oh no, the moon." Do you know what I mean? She's panicking about every single thing. She's being really, really, really pedantic about the wording he's using. Swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon. And then he just asks straight out, "Okay, what shall I swear by?" They're both very, very desperate to kind of be on the same page. And they're both trying not to screw up this conversation, because it's really important to both of them. "Or if thou wilt swear by thy gracious self." She's almost kind of referring back to the idea of perfection that we saw earlier, that you are also beautiful and gracious and amazing. If you're going to swear on anything, you should swear on that, because that is the ultimate thing. That is the amazing thing I can see before me. Now, at this point, we see her interrupting him. "If my heart's dear love," he's ready to use this really romantic and lovely language, and then she cuts him off. "Well, do not swear." Okay, again, context coming in there. An interesting kind of relationship between the two there. "If my heart's dear love." So he's trying to be romantic again. He wants to do this kind of... he's almost played it out in his head. He's almost planned how he should be romantic. But she's not having it. She just wants a straight answer. "Don't swear on things. Just tell me that you love me." And we see that here. Look in this triple: too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning. She's basically scared that he's going to profess his love and bugger off. Basically, that he's going to show up like a flash of lightning and then be gone. It'll be amazing for that few kind of seconds, and then gone. So Juliet's kind of gone on this little, this is how we'll show our love for each other. And Romeo says, "Oh, will thou leave me so unsatisfied?" And he's asking, are you not going to kind of say that you love me then? Are you not going to say that you'll marry me, that you'll be with me forever? She replies with, "What satisfaction canst thou have tonight?" She's kind of assumed that he meant sex. And he says, "The exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine." And she realises, oh, that's not what you meant. But we've already seen that people think Romeo is a very lustful person. Maybe Juliet is kind of assuming that as well, and kind of guessing that that's what he wants. She says, "I gave thee mine before thou stick requested." As in, I've already given you my love. I shouldn't need to kind of profess it and romantically say it, which is a bit ironic, I think. So here we see a continuation of the natural imagery. My bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love is deep. So they both keep referencing this natural love for each other. Then we hear the nurse calling from within, "Juliet!" That was amazing, wasn't it? Top class acting. Thank you for the Oscar. So Juliet knows she must go. And there's kind of this back and forward between her trying to leave and then rushing back out, and then, the nurse calling again, and it gets a bit chaotic for them both. Now back up here, we see that he talks about love's faithful vow. He's basically just proposed to her. He said, basically, "Will you marry me?" And further down, this is when we see basically this being agreed. Juliet says, "3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honourable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow." So if you're serious about wanting to marry me, send me word tomorrow. It's so hard to describe how impulsive they are. They've just agreed to get married after knowing each other for the shortest amount of time. You know, it's not even kind of an arranged marriage where there be a vetting process and kind of the parents kind of negotiating almost, to be honest, and that's kind of how it was and still is in some communities. But there wasn't even that. There was just straight into the marriage. There was no thought process behind this. Wait, we're two people who are literally from families that are at war with each other. Is this going to end well? No. Do they think it's going to end well? Yeah. Are they naive? Yeah, of course they are. They're also ignorant of it, I think. They don't understand what's going on around them. Now, we spoke about at the beginning that Shakespeare doesn't really use many stage directions, so when he does, it's important. The fact that he includes stuff like re-enter Juliet, the fact that he includes stuff like going, that kind of she needs to look like she's leaving, that production should be doing that, shows it's a really important part, that there is this kind of pull, basically physically, between her family and Romeo, and that Romeo is winning. Now, another bit of context here, look, is my soul that calls upon my name. Yeah? So, as if that she is him. You are me at this point. The idea of marriage in Christianity, and I think, to be fair, in a lot of religions, is that when two people get married, their souls become one. They become intertwined. They become the same person almost. And he says that it's as if that's already happened, that when you say, you know, my Romeo, as she does up here, look, it's as if my own soul is calling my name. I know it's the right thing to do because, you know, God has chosen this for me. So we're seeing they're going against God, but they think they're going for God. And there's an interesting argument there with how people use religion to kind of justify their own choices, and this is a great example of that, as is Lord Capulet later on, and the way that he kind of acts, let's say. They agree on a time. What o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee? By the hour of 9, I will not fail. Really key one there. I will not fail. Yeah, that negated modal auxiliary there. Will not. 'Tis 20 years till then. Hyperbole. I forgot why I did call thee back. Their minds are all over the place. They can't even think straight. Yeah, they're kind of doing what I do in lessons, where I'm mid speaking and then I'll just. Now, further down towards the end of the scene, we again see Juliet unsure of herself. Yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. She's scared of kind of over romanticizing this, kind of smothering him almost. Yeah, that's what she's scared of. As if I'm going to kill thee with too much cherishing. And obviously, we also know that is our old pal foreshadowing, because that's exactly what happens. They both die because of the cherishing. That's the story. So at the end of the scene, she goes off and actually stays off this time. And Romeo, we see, has decided to go to the ghostly friar's close cell. So he is taking this marriage proposal very, very seriously, and he's now off to see a friar, a man of religion, a priest basically. And why does that keep happening? Off to the friar's cell to basically arrange the marriage. And we're as an audience going, whoa, okay, this is very, very soon. Now, bear in mind, Act 2, if you remember that little kind of thing where it goes like that, all the way down. Act 2, towards, we're about halfway through Act 2 now, we're nearly at the point where it gets to Act 3, and that's when stuff starts to hit the fan, and it turns into a tragedy and goes all the way down. So we're seeing the kind of setup of all those interesting ideas there that are going to end in tragedy. When the feeling's gone and you can't go on, it's tragedy. Alright guys, I'll stop embarrassing myself, and I will see you next time. Bye!
It takes me ages to practice this word.
3 tops.
Damn it!
God damn it.
God damn it!
Did it last line again?
Just the last time, yeah. Rolling. Action.
And I am proof against their enmity.
Now then we come to...
Lady, by yonder blessed moon
What is going on?
Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity.
I'll swear up by the moon that it'll
It's not Klingon.
Are we doing one again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rolling. Action.
Enmity.
Okay. We've got 1 minute and 30 seconds of nothing so far.
Count me in.
17, 16, 15. Oh, sorry.